Hi, uh, I need help. I'm trying to reorganize my books. I bought a new bookcase. You can't see it; it's over there. And so now I got two bookcases, which is good because this one bookcase was like really overflowing. I had no more room for books. So now I'm doing this major book reorganizing campaign, and I'm trying to do it alphabetical. But what I'm trying to figure out is I have two bookcases, so do I start with A on that bookcase and go to Z on that bookcase, or do I just have them alphabetized on both bookcases and what's on each bookcase is just kind of up to chance? Or do I do what I was thinking of doing is having this bookcase be like my favorite books and this bookcase being like auxiliary books that I have and I like, but I don't read that often. So I don't know how to do it. Right now, I'm just getting the books on the shelves, and then I might move things around. But I figured since I'm going through this process, I might as well talk about some books. And the ones already on this shelf are the ones that I already covered in previous videos, and I know that because to differentiate those books from the books I hadn't talked about yet, I just threw those books on the floor, so now they're not on the floor anymore. Now they're on this bookcase. So here is the next, giant overflowing box of books. And after this, I might do another giant overflowing box of books because I gotta put a lot of books away. Okay. Um, what do we got here? We got really nice old copy of Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. A lot of these books are just completely beat to shit, but that's okay. Let's see. Oh, All the President's Men, which got turned into great book by Carl Bernstein, Bob Woodward. I forget who plays who, but is Watergate. Interesting. Raymond Carver short story collection, Where I'm Calling From, writes beautiful little short stories, most of which I haven't read. You're going to find that a lot of these books I have not read yet, and that's because my brain's been weird for at least a year. And also, they were in a giant messy pile. So if I wanted to find something to read, like a lot of these, I'll probably forget that I even owned. It's a problem, but the reorganization is hopefully going to address this issue, and I can make it through some of these. James Agee's A Death in the Family, winner of the Pulitzer Prize, it says. I mean, but that's no indication that it's going to be a good book. But James Agee, I know him mostly as a screenwriter. He wrote African Queen. He wrote a bunch of stuff, but most importantly, he wrote my favorite movie ever, uh, Night of the Hunter. So I got to read his book. Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man. Really heartbreaking, beautifully written book. Pretty incredible. Very unsettling. It's not the Invisible Man. That's H.G. Wells. This is a movie a bit. This is a book about racism and horror and yeah, not like ghosts and demon and ghouls kind of horror, just like the horror of an oppressive evil society who's focused on keeping you down. Um, okay, Tales from the Script. I love movies. I love reading scripts. I love reading parts in scripts and acting in front of a mirror and pretending I'm an actor and seeing how I would play parts, which, is a weird thing to admit. I probably shouldn't admit that because it's embarrassing, but I like to do it. And I've written some scripts. They're really fun to write. But anyway, this has, little stories from several wonderful screenwriters like William Goldman, who actually wrote All the President's Men, which we just put over there. The script, not the book. John Carpenter, who's one of my favorite screenwriters, one of my favorite directors. Shane Black, who wrote, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and the Lethal Weapon movies, Nice Guys. Paul Schrader, Taxi Driver, First Reformed recently, really good movie. Frank Darabont, Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, The Mist. and on and on and on. Nora Ephron, David Hayter, who's an interesting one, who is a screenwriter who wrote, I know he wrote X-Men. I think he wrote the first couple X-Men movies, or at least co-wrote them. And he's also the voice of Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it goes on and on and on. Ron Shelton, Paul Mazursky. I could keep, but I'm not gonna keep talking. But I could. But interesting book. This is an old book, The Writers at Work, Peers Review Interviews. So this is a series of interviews with what were at the time contemporary authors, and that includes who's in here: E.M. Forrester, James Thurber, Thornton Wilder, William Faulkner, Truman Capote, a bunch of really wonderful writers. So that's interesting to read. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. They've made movies of this 3 times, and I think that the book as written is more interesting than any of the movies. I mean, I think probably the most solid movie of the 3 is The Last Man on Earth, the Vincent Price one from way back, and then the other 2 have like great stuff about him and goofy stuff about him. But I Am Legend, the Will Smith one, which is on the cover here, is a solid film, but book's better. All right. Let's see here. Oh, Away We Go. Written by Dave Eggers and his wife, Vendela Vida, who is also a novelist. I really need to check her stuff out. But Dave Eggers is my favorite author, and this is not a novel. This is a script he wrote to a really wonderful movie directed by Sam Mendes. This movie doesn't get enough credit. It's like really funny and really romantic, really nice movie, beautifully acted and written. So if you haven't seen Away We Go, you really should. Okay, so this is all about the making of the Brian De Palma adaptation of Bonfire of the Vanities, a Tom Wolfe book that I don't know if I own a copy, but I read when I was younger, and it's a really good book, like really snarky book. And the movie, got some things right, but definitely fucked up other things about the book. And overall, it didn't really capture what made the book special, and so it was, kind of a flop and a critical failure. And so this book is going into the making of that film and kind of what went wrong, and it's a lot of fun. This is Operation Monkey Mail. Need I go on? No. I mean, I just grabbed this because how do you not, come on? And can I just read the plot description of this? I know this is going to take a while, but we kind of have to. No, this can't be happening, thought Jennifer. It was a nightmare coming to life. Kissy, the little monkey that she had loved and cared for all her life, was about to undergo a dangerous secret experiment conducted by Donald Dugan, a ruthless but clueless army general. Jennifer vowed to save Kissy from almost certain death, but how? What could a teenager do against the most powerful army in the world? Enter Katie, the Army's latest high-tech, ultra-sophisticated gizmo-laden peacekeeping vehicle. Developed by Man Lizard, Jennifer's brilliant father with a severe caffeine addiction, Katie winds up in the hands of Jennifer and her friends who embark on a mission to save Kissy from the clutches of doom. But even with the powerful Katie at their side, it will be no easy task. Dugan is determined to save his career and will stop at nothing to get Katie back. A pair of bumbling would-be thieves join in the chase, equally determined to nab Katie for their own less than good intentions. The result is an adventure for Jennifer and her friends that is exciting, funny, and sometimes scary. Will they make it? Will they be able to save Kissy? Operation Monkey Mail is more than 4 teenagers' adventure. It is the story of a little monkey's destiny. So, I'll get around to that soon. I gotta. This is just a really nice old copy of John Carter of Mars that I got for $5. That seems very reasonable, and I love old books like this. I love the old covers. They were done with such care, and they're this beautiful works of art. Like if they were in a museum, you wouldn't bat an eye, would you? just a random Jim Thompson book. I haven't read this one yet, but I have read a few of Jim Thompson's books, and he's one of my favorite film noir authors. I mean, he's like really hard boiled and intense. His stuff is very very dark, but he's real good. Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. This is a book my dad read to me when I was younger, and it's really funny. Uh, Ignatius is just such a fascinating and bizarre protagonist, and they keep trying to make this into a movie, and the people they cast as Ignatius keep dying. So that's kind of an interesting little conspiracy. But I don't care if the movie ever gets made because the book is really good. And I also got to read Neon Bible. But I feel kind of weird about it because he was working on it when he died and it's unfinished. But I got to read it. Catch Me If You Can, another one I haven't read yet, but I bought this because I'm a huge fan of the Spielberg adaptation of this. And this is written by the real guy, by Frank Abagnale, the guy who Leonardo DiCaprio plays in the film. So that's cool. What we got here? We got collected poems of Dylan Thomas. I do enjoy reading some poetry from time to time. I enjoy writing poetry too, but these days I'm kind of self-conscious about it for some reason. I used to write poetry all the time. I don't know. I haven't done it in a while. Maybe someday. What do we got here? Okay, we got two autobiographies by two problematic people. And the first one is Choreography by Corey Feldman. And this is the less problematic of the two. Corey's just had, a lot of allegations against him that are not good. But he is a fascinating person. He's had a bizarre life that often had like a lot of darkness in it, and he's currently making some of the most fascinatingly bad music of all time. So I was interested in learning more, as you would be. And then this one, I was thinking maybe I should even skip this, but I'm not going to skip it. It's Solar Coaster by R. Kelly. Now, I bought this long before we learned R. Kelly was like, well, we already knew that he was like a depraved monster and a criminal, but we didn't know the extent of it. We didn't know how bad it really got. And part of the reason I got this was like I've never really been an R. Kelly fan at all, but there was like a certain kind of circus sideshow quality to his stuff, especially that whole Trapped in the Closet series. Like it wasn't good, but it was interesting, you know? And that's how I felt about R. Kelly in general. It was just like I'm not a fan, but there's a lot of strangeness there that I want to explore. And this is a very, very strange book. And of course, he does not go into any detail at all about his many crimes, which he has, as you would expect, left out of the book entirely. And last one in this box, and I think I am going to get another box. We're on a roll. Is the complete Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I mean, at least the five that Douglas Adams did. I think there are. And a short story in here too, in Universe. I mean, I think there have been further Hitchhiker's Guidebooks not written by Douglas Adams. I think like written by his son and stuff. But that's not in here. These are just the complete stories. And I haven't read all of them yet, obviously, but well, maybe not obviously, but I haven't. But what I have read is a lot of fun. Okay, I'm going to fill up this box again and come back. Bye. All right, second giant box of books. Let's go. L.A. Confidential by James Ellroy. Haven't read it yet. Big fan of the movie. Want to read it. I've heard it's very long and very complicated, and that's okay. This is a random Chuck Palahniuk short story collection. I'm not a huge Chuck Palahniuk guy. I probably got this because it was cheap, or maybe I was trying to like Chuck Palahniuk at the time. But he has some good short stories here and there. And I think I bought this because these are actually these are like true stories. They're kind of essays in a way, I guess, or just like works of nonfiction and like little glimpses into his brain and like how he comes up with ideas and stuff. And I'm interested in that. I'm interested in writing, and I like to write, and I like to read about other writers and their thoughts and their process and stuff. So I'll check it out. Uh, Cloud Atlas. I'm probably never gonna read Cloud Atlas. I mean, I even had like really mixed feelings about the movie. There were parts of it I enjoyed, and there were parts of it where I was like, "What the fuck was that?" But maybe someday I'll read Cloud Atlas. I kind of doubt it. I'm beginning to think that my plan of favorite books, auxiliary books, is going to work. But I think the first stage of that is to get everything put away, and then I begin the process of transference. But this is going to go on the auxiliary shelf, I do believe. You're not going to believe me, but these old Doom books are actually really well written. Like, I don't know if I can just open this to a random page and find something good, but it is good. Can I find something good? Am I gonna look dumb? Yeah, I'm gonna look dumb. Should I stop the video and quit? No. Just keep going. How about this? How about this? Time had no meaning for Fly Taggart. The memory of being Fly Taggart. He had no body but retained a consciousness somehow, somewhere, a sense of motion. But that might only be another memory. Remembering a hand created a hand. Remembering a foot resulted in the sensation of a foot, a painful sensation from where his ankle had been bruised. Memory of a backache condensed into a patch of flesh and blood that was a back. Memory of breath turned emptiness into a pair of lungs. Recollections of hot days on a summer beach left their imprint on a forehead slick with sweat. Then he had a whole body, floating in a warm current of air slowly cooling, an upside-down vertigo turning his stomach, which meant that he had a stomach. The fall wasn't long, and he skinned his knees on a hard metal surface before falling forward on his face. The air was cold. He blinked eyes and an aching head. He couldn't see anything but white and red spots chasing each other across a field of darkness. The man panicked at the thought that he'd been blinded, but gradually vision returned. There wasn't much worth seeing. So that's good, right? I'm telling you. Stephen King, Gunslinger, first book of The Dark Tower. I want to read The Dark Tower because it looks like it's like full of lore and that's a lot of fun. But I haven't yet. I was thinking about doing it on here and kind of documenting the passage through the books and maybe the extended reading order with some of the books you're supposed to read off to the side that help fill out details and stuff. I might do that someday. I would like to, but will I is a different question than what I like to. But hopefully I can convince myself to do that at some point. Everything is falling. Little random copy of Alice in Wonderland, because why not? Grindel, I believe I read this for school. This is like a kind of a Beowulf adjacent book, and a very, very interesting book from what I remember. I don't remember that much about it because I think I had to read it very quickly, but I remember thinking it was very well written. Frankenstein, I actually might get rid of this because I bought a nicer edition of this that actually has like footnotes and stuff where like scientists write about the science in the book and like what is scientifically accurate, what isn't, and all that stuff is interesting getting that context. So I don't know if I'll keep that old copy. Wind Up Bird Chronicle, very mysterious and interesting book by Haruki Murakami. I would like to read more Murakami. This book is really intriguing, but it was published in installments, and I think you can kind of tell when you read it. It definitely could have been condensed a bit more than it was. I thought it was a little indulgent, but still a very interesting, very well written book, very original book. This is a true crime book. I'll Be Gone in the Dark was turned into a mini series as well. This is about this woman who, um, for years, was doing research and trying to find this guy, the Golden State Killer, who had committed all kinds of horrific crimes, but had not been identified by the police, and she was actually basically able to do it, and he was brought to justice shortly after she died, which was sad that she didn't get to live to see it. And actually, she kind of died, as maybe as a result of the process of making this book, like the taking pills to stay awake and sleep deprivation and stuff like that. But it's a fascinating book, and she did a lot of good for the world in playing a hugely instrumental role in catching this guy. So it's an interesting book because it's about her and it's about him. It's very interesting. Um, Then we got the autobiography of Damien Eccles, which I haven't read yet, but West Memphis 3, one of these guys who was wrongfully convicted of murder and was on death row and ended up being able to get off death row and start his life again. And yeah, it's a fascinating story. I haven't read that yet, but I will someday. Jaws, another one I haven't read yet. I have so many fucking books I haven't read. I'm going to get to it. But I obviously bought this because Jaws is probably like a top 20 movie for me. I absolutely love Jaws. And I've heard that the book isn't as good, but I'm curious. And then finally, the last one in this box is Foodheim by Eric Wareheim. So this is Eric of Tim and Eric, and I'm a fan of both of them, both him and Tim Heidecker, both as actors and comedians and artists, but also for the stuff they do off to the side. Like Tim Heidecker has like these singer-songwriter albums that are actually really good, and Eric Wareheim, he has one of my favorite Instagram accounts because he's just literally going around to different restaurants, just taking pictures of delicious food. Like that's like all he does. And he wrote a book about it, and I think that's fantastic. Okay, I think one more box, and I'll be done with this bottom shelf. So I'll be back. Okay, one more box. Let's go. All right. First of all, we have some oversized books that couldn't really fit in the box. So we, of course, have Space Ducks, the graphic novel by Daniel Johnston, who is one of my favorite songwriters, incredible songwriter, and one of his, actually, sadly, one of his last creative projects was creating Space Ducks. And it's very strange. And I think his art is funny and occasionally beautiful and just really interesting. I have one of his art prints too that I'm gonna put on my wall someday, hopefully. The Divine Comedy. This is the whole thing. I've just read Inferno, but someday I'll get to Purgatorio and Paradiso. I should, but Inferno is great. I From what I remember, magicians are closer to the center of hell than murderers. That might not be accurate. That's what I recall. Random book by Lee Brackett. Lee Brackett was really cool. She at the time really kind of bucked a lot of conventions of what kind of books women were expected to write and stuff. And she would write a lot of really awesome genre fiction, and she would go on to have a really cool screenwriting career where she would work on stuff like the Big Sleep, with William Faulkner. And it's so crazy that these, like, legendary novelists were just like out in Hollywood trying to make an extra buck. Like, you watch old movies and occasionally you'll just see, like, oh, story by Thornton Wilder or something, and it's just like, whoa, all right. Didn't know Thornton Wilder wrote the story to this like B espionage movie, but okay. But she wrote I mean, she's largely responsible for the script to The Empire Strikes Back too. I mean, just a wonderful writer, and I haven't read this one. I haven't read so much of this stuff, but I'm sure I'll enjoy it. Uh, that wasn't an oversized book either. I don't know why it was in the stack. We of course have Behind the Paint by Violent J of the Insane Clown Posse. This book is hilarious, and I don't think it's supposed to be, but it is. Um, Talk about books about problematic people. This is Conversations with Woody Allen. This was given to me when I graduated by one of my teachers, um, who who I did well in his class and had a lot of fun there, and he he gave me a book. I don't know, but I appreciated it. It was a very nice gift, and he knew that I was a big movie guy. And to be honest, like, I love Woody Allen stuff. I do, and I have so many fond memories of watching his movies. This is just this is a very old book. This is like, I don't know, 18 years old or something. Ugh. But it's a bummer that great art is often made by shitty people. But I think we're learning more and more every year that that's the case, and it doesn't change the quality of the art. It's just, how do you want to respond to it? What's this? No, that's not anything. Um, this is just a random Jonathan Lethem book I haven't read yet because I forgot I had it. Jonathan Lethem's a great writer, though. Read, Motherless Brooklyn, and God, what's that? Fortress of Solitude. That's what it's called. A bunch of wonderful books. This is Gilliam esque. The kind of a very extravagant illustrated memoir by Terry Gilliam, who is a wonderful filmmaker. My favorite film of his is probably The Fisher King. Big fan of that movie. And this isn't even a book. I mean, there is a book in here, but this is back when I collected DVDs, which, now I've kind of moved on to Blu-rays, but I bought this Elia Kazan collection because it had of a number of films that were hard to get on DVD that were very good, like what's in here, Face in the Crowd, which is one of my favorite movies ever. East of Eden's in here, America, America, Panic in the Streets, Streetcar Named Desire. All basically all the big ones. So this was a cool set to have, and now I have to buy my favorites of these on Blu-ray. So, but I guess I'll keep this. I mean, I like it, and it does have a book in here, um, and it does have I believe Scorsese picked the movies, and I believe he wrote the book as well, or at least partially wrote the book. And it's been a long time since I read it. Okay, and now we get to the actual box. Uno momento. All right. Okay, it's gonna be all right. What do we got here? I usually don't buy books out of spite, but this is Sean Penn's debut novel, Bob Honey, Who Just Do Stuff. And I read some excerpts of this, and I was like, wow, that is fascinatingly bad. And so I bought it to see how bad it was. And It's real bad. Um, I think this is my dad's book. I should really return this to him. This has, some short stories by authors in Spanish, and I believe he loaned this to me because it has a Julio Cortázar short story called "The Disused Door," and I am a big Cortázar fan, particularly of his short stories. So thanks, Dad. I'll give it back someday. This is another West Memphis 3 book, but this is just the true story of the case, and why they were wrongfully imprisoned, why they were released. This is a book about filmmaking, specifically mostly about making the movie Matewan, which is a great movie if you haven't seen it, by John Sayles, who is one of my favorite directors. He hasn't made a movie in a long time, but since like 2013 or something like that. But he was on a roll for a while there. He made Matewan and Lone Star and Brother from Another Planet, and he's made a number of wonderful movies. And it's Eight Men Out too, which is one of the better baseball movies ever. So yeah, interesting to hear him talk about making Matewan, which is maybe my second favorite movie of his after Lone Star. Uh, what do we got here? We got Naked Lunch by Burroughs, William S. Burroughs. Um, yeah, I got mixed feelings about William S. Burroughs, but I do think he was a really strong writer. I don't know about him as a person. He did shoot his wife, supposedly accidentally, but he was an interesting writer. You got to give him that. Um, good here. Down in Dirty Pictures, this is kind of about the beginning of the independent film movement, which happened, at the end of the 80s. Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape kind of, I'm not going to say that was like the first one, but that kind of threw open the door to those movies, kind of being taken more seriously, by like the industry at large and like getting a more visibility. And like after that, Slacker by Richard Linklater, that was another big one. And then Miramax was kind of like, like the A24 or the Neon of its time, just pushing these really exciting kind of artists with really unique voices and a lot of energy and stuff. So this is just about that time. Just an interesting time in film history. This pile over here is getting precarious. I'm gonna move some of this. I dropped a book on the floor, and my dog thinks there's someone at the door. Okay. Moving stuff. Moving more stuff. All right. What do we got here? We got the complete plays of William Shakespeare. I've read some of them. I definitely haven't read all of them, but if I want to read every single play by William Shakespeare, I have that option. I like the ones I've read. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I do think William Shakespeare was a good playwright. All right. What do we got here? This is a fun one. It's called Banvard's Folly: 13 Tales of People Who Didn't Change the World. And basically what this is people who, it's hard to explain. It's like people who accomplished great feats that like nobody cared about. People who were able to accomplish amazing things, but they weren't things that like you can devote your life to something and really excel in a field that is just, and other people can look at that and be like, why do you care about that thing so much? Why do you spend so much time doing that? So this is about people who did that, who devoted their lives and really pushed to make accomplishments in fields that people did not care about. And it did not lead to them becoming famous. Um, Kim Jong Il production. This is a fun book about a filmmaker. Um, that was basically, well, yeah, it's about a few people who, like a filmmaker and a couple of actors and whatnot, who were kidnapped by North Korea and forced to make films for Kim Jong Il, who would direct these movies. I've heard that he was fond of directing like action movies and stuff like that. But it is very interesting account. I'm thirsty. Um, this is the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, which is a book of poetry, and the poetry is very nice. But I was intrigued by this book because it has a central role to play in one of my favorite unsolved mysteries, the the Tamim Shud case. It's typically said Taman Shud, but I think it's Tamim Shud. But the newspapers printed it wrong. But it's a fascinating case, and basically, there's a couple of people who are found dead with this book tangentially related to their deaths. It's like was found on one of them, and it was found in a. I can't explain it right now. I want to write a fictionalized version of it eventually. Um, so maybe you'll read about it then. I don't know. Fascinating story though. Uh, this is a book my dad gave me, Reinhard Swimming. I don't know what it's about, but yeah, he said it was funny, and he has good taste in books, so I'll give it a try. Um, and then what do we got here? We got Killings by Calvin Trillin. This is just some little true crime stories written by a really good reporter, journalist man who is good at writing, and you know I am interested in true crime, so why not? And then we have The Dead Zone by Stephen King, which is a movie I very much enjoy. I really like David Cronenberg's adaptation of this with Chris Walken. And then finally, the last one over here is The Monk of Mocha by Dave Eggers, which has the distinction of being the only Dave Eggers book I flat out don't like. I found it kind of boring. Sorry, Dave, but it's a really beautiful edition. I've always dreamed of having my book published by McSweeney's, Dave Eggers' publisher. They do such beautiful stuff. Anyway, that is it for the bottom shelf. I mean, I'm gonna keep on organizing stuff and things over here, so I'll probably do another one of these sooner than later. But I